name is David Hart from G4 Guitar. This is the second part of the Teacher G4 Guitar Method training. What I want to do here is move on to the student checklist. Now, we have a series of junior checklists and senior checklists. We also have a young beginner checklist, and we also have what we call AMEB, which is really only applies to people in Australia. The other checklists are fine to use anywhere in the world, and you can, even if you're in another country, you can still use AMEB. It's a very good setup, and you don't have to do the exams, but you can obviously use the checklists. Now, let's have a look here at start with a junior level 1 checklist. In the junior, just so you know, there's 7 checklists altogether, and they're all laid out pretty much the same. So you have at the top, you've got a place to put the student's name, put your name, the teacher, put the commencement date, and then the expected completion date. So what you're really looking at is to give students a bit of a deadline, to say that we want to finish this by this time. If you don't set a deadline, you will find that they'll tend to coast along and can even get off track. So the best idea is just put a 6-month deadline in there, so giving yourself six months to complete a checklist. Hopefully you can do it a little bit quicker. It depends really on how much experience the student has and whether they have, often if they're a child, whether they've got a supportive parent, somebody else involved. It does all make a big difference. But you will see by using a checklist and having a completion date, you will start to work yourself more efficiently on getting them to finish it. So let's have a look how it works. We've got here all the different categories, so the different skills that they need to learn, and then one category at the bottom, the songs. We've got little boxes here that we tick, which should line up with each of these skills. And as you finish a skill, then what you do, you tick a box. So if they can do the first picking exercise steady at 80 beats per minute, then they can get a tick, and they should be able to do that fairly quickly. But make sure that you're working on the technique, so don't just give them a tick after they do it once or twice. Just make sure that the technique is good and say, okay, that looks good, let's give you a tick for that one. Then with the chords, very simple chords, 1-finger chords are C, G, 7, G, which are in the method. You can see those chords, how they're laid out, plus a D7, and they need to be able to move at 60 beats per minute. So these are the different requirements of each of the skills. So you just need to be working on those in each of the lessons and then getting them to practice those at home so that they're moving through. Now in each of your lessons you're always going to do picking, always start off with picking, and then just pick 2 skills. Generally you just want to rotate it, so one week do chords and scales, next week do arpeggios and strumming, next week do some reading and oral if you like, and always end with if you have time. You don't have to do it every lesson, but generally try and fit in some time to do the songs at the end of the lesson. So and only really do one song at a time, unless they're at that point where they're getting close to learning all those songs, so you've got time to review 2 or 3. Down the bottom here is where you get to write in any notes that you want. So if you want to put something that you want them to do on the picking, something on the chords, now write in pencil here. Always keep a pencil and eraser handy, and that way you can write in and erase each lesson as you need. And that keeps you, that should be at the front of their folder after the practice log. So put the practice log in first, and then put this in behind the practice log. And that way, the first thing you check when they come into their lesson is their practice log. Make sure that you do that every week. By checking their practice log, you're showing an interest in what is important, which is the practice. The more you check it, the more consistent you are, the more they will actually practice. You might think it's a strange thing, but it works so well. Check the practice log, and they will practice. So that's the layout. Now we'll just move to the number 2 here. You can see it's the same layout. Everything's the same, which makes it really easy for students, because when they get to the second level, they already understand the format. You've already got them basically in tune with what the style of teaching that you're doing and the way that it works. So when they get to the second level, even though the skills are harder, the understanding of what they need to be doing is much clearer, meaning that when they get home and start practicing, they know where they're going and what they're looking at. So if you've done the job in level 1 and really help them to understand the different skills and the kind of things that they're doing, when they move to level 2, it's really just upping the ante, making it a little bit harder. So you can see with each of the levels, it's exactly the same. And aim for 6 months with each level. Try and get them to wrap it up in 6 months if you can. And you can see there's a total of 7 levels altogether there. Now you really just want to print out one at a time. So give them whatever level they're on, put that in their folder, work through it, and then complete. Once it's completed, then you can move on to the next level. Now let's have a look at some of the other things. Like if we're looking here, for instance, at the rhythm, we come down here to the strumming, and it says strum all lesson 6 exercises from the G4 rhythm book. So what is the G4 rhythm book? This is the G4 rhythm book. So you can see it's full of rhythm exercises, and that will be what you'll use to do your rhythm exercises. Lots of different ones on there. You've also got a reading book which you can use for reading. We also recommend the Progressive Guitar Method book. It's just a good book to use as well, but I suggest you use both because there are exercises in here, I'll show you down here a bit further, which are a little bit better laid out, especially for these early levels. You just get more exercises that they can do in order to help them move up into the next level. There's a few gaps in those Progressive and Mel Bay kind of books where they jump up a bit too quickly and you lose students. They get overwhelmed with the exercise, and that's where you'll lose them. So if you can use this, then you will get a better result by using that. So there's your rhythm. You can see that there's different lessons, and they generally line up with these. There's one more here, which is the theory. Now the theory, you don't have to cover too much. You don't have to put too much time into it. Let them work through it, and then you test them on it, ask them questions. We've even got a few videos up already, and we hope to get more where there's a video, 10-minute video that actually goes through and explains the lesson, what it all means. So the student can literally sit there with a copy of this and watch the video, and they'll get an understanding of what it's all about. So they should be able to turn up, and you should be able to ask them a question on that, and they should be able to answer it for you. So when you ask them what is the chromatic scale, they should be able to explain to you it's the 12 notes used in music, blah blah blah. So the idea is that then they do intervals, and you don't need to give them a lesson every week on theory, or they don't need to do one. They can do it at their own pace, because as you know, the physical side of playing guitar takes a lot longer than the actual theoretical. I could, in theory, excuse the pun, sit down with any student and teach them all the theory that they really need to know within a couple of months, whereas to get their playing up to that level, it might take 2 years. So you don't have to rush too quickly through the theory. It's good to know, but there's no urgent need for them to get through that. Okay, so that pretty well wraps it up. That sort of shows you the theory side of it, the rhythm sheet and the checklist. So really, just to sum up here, you give the students, I'll just bring it back over here, you give the students the G4 Guitar Method, you print that out, you then give them the first checklist, and you fill out the top section of there, and then you just go to work. You get started and you work through each of these skills with them each and every week. They should bring their folder in every week, and you should be ticking boxes, hopefully on a regular basis. And then if they're, we're talking about children and parents are involved, then what you want to do is explain to the parents exactly what you're doing so they know what's going to be happening at home. Involve them as much as possible, and it's that simple. The method works fantastically. Everyone knows what they're doing. There's a clear goal. The practice log ensures your students are practicing. Check that practice log every week, and you shouldn't have a problem. So hopefully that's brought you up to speed. That's really all you need to know at this point to get you started with the method. If you have any questions, please email me and contact me as always. Thank you, and all the best. Bye-bye.